At the end of last month, the leaders of Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas were respectively taken out by targeted killing in Beirut and Tehran within just a few hours. Since then, both the president of Iran and the leader of Hezbollah have clearly stated that retaliatory actions will surely be taken and Israel must be punished accordingly. On August 5, U.S. officials claimed to the Wall Street Journal that in the recent few days, the U.S. has observed signs of missile launcher activities in Iran, which clearly indicates that they have completed preparations for launching an attack. The day before, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken disclosed to diplomats of the Group of Seven that Iran and Hezbollah were very likely to launch an attack on Israel within the next 24 to 48 hours. A major war seems to have reached a critical moment that could break out at any time. However, on the afternoon of the 5th local time, senior officials revealed that when U.S. President Biden and Vice President Harris met with the National Security Team in the White House Situation Room, the intelligence they obtained showed that the previous assessment of the situation was relatively vague and not clear and definite. The Jerusalem Post of Israel reported on the 6th that the U.S. Intelligence Department, after assessment, believes that Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iran will launch two waves of attacks, one by Hezbollah and the other by Iran and the armed groups it supports. However, it is still unknown who will launch the attack first and what form of strike will be taken. A senior U.S. official pointed out that the retaliation by Iran and Hezbollah is still in the planning stage, and the two sides are still discussing the specific implementation methods. Officials of the Biden administration said that they are preparing to defend against the planned attacks and are exerting diplomatic pressure on Iran and Hezbollah to try to minimize their retaliatory actions against Israel. The EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, José P. Borrell, issued a new appeal on August 6, aiming to end the Gaza war. He warned that this war has pushed the region to the brink of a war of unknown scale. All those who hinder the easing of the situation should be held accountable, Borrell wrote in a post on social platform X. Reuters reported on the 6th, citing to senior Iranian sources, that Russian President Vladimir Putin called on Iran to exercise restraint to avoid a larger-scale conflict in the Middle East and advised Iran not to attack Israeli civilians the day before. The Secretary of the Russian Security Council and former Defense Minister, Sergei Shoigu, arrived in Tehran and met with Iran's new president, Pezeshkian, and the Chief of Staff of Iran's Armed Forces, Bagheri. Movements of the Iranian military. Will the publication of the list of potential targets cause panic? The Jerusalem Post of Israel reported on the 6th that Israel's Alma Research Center released a report earlier this week. The report pointed out that in addition to drones launched from western Iran, Iran's potential attacks against Israel are expected to include ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. The Alma Research Center has listed 12 launch sites that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC of Iran and the Iranian Armed Forces might use when launching attacks, including Tabriz, Kermanshah, Kahramanabad, and Desi-Ful, etc. This report also stated that the missile launches are expected to be carried out from open areas, next to underground bases through mobile launchers, and the reduction in the number of these base shafts may affect the number of launch-able times on August 5 local time. According to the Iran Information Update released by the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, the news agency of the Iranian Armed Forces DEFA Press announced the list of potential strike targets in civilian and military aspects of Israel on the 5th. The purpose is most likely to weaken Israel's ability to effectively defend against Iranian attacks by dispersing Israel's air defense and missile defense facilities and creating panic among civilians, the website wrote. The target list announced by the Iranian military news agency covers Israeli military bases and government sites, such as the Israeli Ministry of Defense in Tel Aviv, the Israeli parliament building in Jerusalem, and 8 Air Force bases across Israel. In addition, Iran also specified the locations of civilian infrastructure such as airports, gas fields, and power plants across Israel. Iran may believe that by causing Israel to disperse its defense forces, the release of this information will increase the possibility of Iran hitting certain targets. In the attack against Israel on April 13, 2024, the US-Israeli coalition intercepted most of Iran's drones and missiles outside Israel. Given the short distance to Israel and the short flight time, drones and missiles launched from Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria are more difficult to intercept compared to those launched from Iran. The website wrote not all of these targets match the assassination of Haniyeh. The publication of some potential targets may be to create information and economic effects, rather than determine precise strike targets. The website analyzed. Striking other targets will seriously escalate the situation and is likely to cause civilian casualties. Iran may feel that this would be counterproductive to efforts to establish deterrence against Israel. 2 retaliation options. Shorten the reaction time for the Israeli army. U.S. military and intelligence analysts believe that regarding Iran's retaliation against Israel, it may ultimately present 2 scenarios. Mark Montgomery, a retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral and former policy director of the Senate Armed Services Committee, told Politico, the U.S. political news website, that Iran is unlikely to use the attack method it launched against Israel on April 13 again. That attack was mainly carried out with drones and some missiles, but it was quickly intercepted by the U.S., Israel, and the armies of Gulf neighbors. The attack group was significantly weakened by the U.S. Middle East-based Air Force and other countries' air forces before reaching the Jordanian airspace right in front of Israel. The remaining part was left for Israel to handle. Montgomery said, however, he expects that attacks launched from Iranian territory are still under discussion. He said that perhaps Iran would be seen using medium-range ballistic missiles and cruise missiles to attack Israeli targets. The second possible scenario is that the attacks are mainly missile strikes launched by proxy-armed groups such as those in Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq to minimize the reaction time for Israel and its allies to shoot down these targets preemptively. Jonathan Rowe, a U.S. expert on Middle East issues, believes that the purpose of the second retaliation plan is to overwhelm Israel's defenses and shorten the reaction time of the Israeli military this time. Iran is trying to find a way to make Israel pay some real price, forcing Israel to stop destroying Hezbollah's targets or prevent things like the targeted strike on Haniyeh in Tehran from happening. Rowe pointed out that the signal sent by Tehran in April gave Israel plenty of time to respond and believes that Iran will not make the same mistake again. This time, no information about the strike was disclosed in its analysis on August 5. Politico believes that the U.S. expects that regardless of the threat situation in Tehran, regional partners will once again provide assistance to Israel. But this kind of support may not be as public as it was in April when the Jordanian and Saudi armies helped shoot down incoming drones, in part because the region is dissatisfied with Israel due to the assassination of Hamas leader Haniyeh. On August 4, Iranian official media reported that Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Saif Audi made a rare visit to Tehran to discuss the regional situation with the Iranian foreign minister. This was the first such visit since 2005. It is worth noting that, according to relevant reports, the minister informed Iran that Amman will not open its airspace to Iran. The United States or Israel Tzvika Haimovich, who served as the commander of the Israeli Air Defense Forces from 2015 to 2018, told the media on the 5th that Hezbollah in Lebanon will play a crucial role in Iran's retaliatory actions this time. Haimovich believes that there are many questions to be answered regarding whether a full-scale war will break out. The first question is whether Iran will attack central Israel such as Tel Aviv or limit the strike area to northern Israel near Haifa. The second question is whether Tehran will use precision missiles or simple mass weapons. The third question is whether Iran will adopt large-scale salvo. That is, launch rockets all at once. The website of Foreign Policy magazine published an article written by two senior U.S. analysts on July 31st. Titled "A Hezbollah War Would Be Israel's Greatest Challenge in Decades," arguing that, if the conflict expands, Hezbollah's vast arsenal of rockets and missiles and its tenacious military strength will pose a major threat to Israel. And the degree of damage may be much more severe than what Israel has experienced in decades. Hezbollah is one of the best armed non-state organizations in the world. And the air threat it poses to Israel is far more serious than that of Hamas. Its large arsenal contains 120,000 to 200,000 rockets and missiles, as well as more lethal short-range and medium-range unguided ballistic missiles. The article wrote, however, former CIA director and commander of the Central Command David Petraeus still believed in an interview with the media on the 5th that Iran and Israel will do their best to avoid an all-out war. "I think the Iranians have to retaliate," Petraeus said. The Haniyeh incident is a huge blow to Iran's face. This is a huge intelligence failure, security failure. So, they have to retaliate. But I don't think Iran wants a real direct war with Israel. Frankly, I don't think Israel wants a real all-out war with Hezbollah, or Iran either. In an article published in The Atlantic Weekly on August 5 by Iranian columnist Arash Azizai, the debate and strategic calculations within Iran's security and military elite regarding the latest situation were elaborated in detail regarding the views of the internal hawks. Tehran's national security elite expert Mostafa Najafi said that Iran has become more inclined to engage in direct conflict with Israel not due to ideological fanaticism, but because it is trying to prevent Israel from changing the balance of power in the region. Israel has expanded its relations with regional Sunni Arab countries in recent years. For this reason, Iran, the largest Shia country, is even ready to enter a comprehensive regional war. And the upcoming attack might be more decisive and more painful. These views are very likely to gain wide acceptance among the leadership of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a powerful militia organization that will direct the attacks against Israel, the article believes. But in the past few days, some other internal voices have also been loudly calling for a cautious response to the assassination of Haniyeh. They claim that the Israeli attack aims to prevent the new government of reformist President Pezeshkian from mending relations with the region and Western countries. Its representatives include former Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, who is also the head of Pezeshkian's transition team, the current vice president in charge of strategic affairs, former ambassador to Qatar Hamid Reza Dehghani, former deputy foreign minister and current member of the National Interest Council Mohammed Sadr, etc. Former Vice President Hussein Marishai, who is closely related to Pezeshkian and a famous leader of the Reformist Party, claimed that Iran must cooperate with Middle Eastern and European countries as well as some departments of the U.S. government to overthrow Israeli President Netanyahu. He believes that Iran should respond militarily to the assassination, but only if we do not fall into the trap set by the Israeli rulers and do not contribute to the expansion of the war, which is exactly what Netanyahu expects. There is also a more radical centrist strategy that argues that if Iran wants to find out who helped Israel infiltrate its ranks, it should first focus on the anti-Israeli hardliners who demand strict policies to isolate Iran. The attack on Haniyeh occurred on the second day after the inauguration of the new Iranian president, Jafar Hp-Ana, a senior researcher and head of the Regional Research Department at the Tehran Institute for Strategic Studies RIS in Iran, also told the paper recently that, as the reformist new president of Iran, Pezeshkian hopes to build friendly relations with other countries and improve the current situation. However, Israeli politicians think that the reformist president of Iran is more dangerous for them. Because generally speaking, during the reign of the reformist in Iran, Iran has better relations with all countries, which means that Iran will not be isolated. Conversely, Israel will become more isolated, he believes. According to the Iranian constitution, the president is the chairperson of the Supreme National Security Council, so the president is quite influential in the council. He has the support of many generals of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. I think the new president has some influence in formulating relevant guidelines and will carry out a well-planned retaliation against Israel. However, an anonymous political advisor closely related to the former Iranian foreign minister said that the new president Pezeshkian, due to having no experience in foreign policy, is difficult to have an impact on this internal debate. The veteran hardline Iranian supreme leader Khamenei has brought his country closer to a catastrophic war than ever before. No one knows exactly what is going on in Khamenei's office. The political advisor disclosed to the Atlantic Weekly